In this video, we are going to see how we can manage and customize the user interface in Cinema 4D, but also how we can manage our project settings and also how we can create a project, a more complex project with a more complex scene and importing objects also from outside and not only from the asset browser of Cinema 4D. So let's get started and bring some scene inside. So in the previous video we saw how we can insert simple objects. Now we will select scene and we can go here in the features folder. We can find a lot of scenes. For example, these ones are for ambient occlusion, so you can use this to set up or to understand or to study ambient occlusion, and you have many different folders here. For example, this is for character rigging. If you want to animate character body or face, you will find this template and you can study them. So again, the asset browser is really useful to understand many different features of the software. Now in this case, I'm going to go here in the rendering folder and get in this 01 subfolder and open up one of these. And in this case, I selected this hallway Cinema 4D, so I will click and drag it directly into the scene. And there you go. Now I will close the asset browser and save this project. So when you're saving here, you are saving in the Cinema 4D file. So I'm gonna call this lesson 3. And you can always also open up other Cinema 4D projects separately, or you can import or insert other projects here. If you go here to merge projects, for example, I can select one previous project, like this text that we created earlier, and there you go. So I have inserted this one here, and I can assembly and manage more and more objects and create more complex scene. Now I want to rotate this and scale it just as we saw in the previous video. I can use the various transform tools and also click the scroll wheel to go in the 4 views and move this here on the top view. With the move tool, I will find a correct position for this, and also I will move it in the epsilon axis a little bit higher. So we can continue to bring stuff from the asset browser or from previous projects, or you can go to file and also try to merge different projects from different software. For example, I can use Rhino and try to insert a lesson here. For example, I can try to insert here lesson 16, which is part of the course in Rhino. And if you're interested, you will find these courses about many different 3D software in the channel. Now you can see that this didn't work. I cannot actually see anything more than the objects that were already there. Now let's try with another one. And this time I'm going to use SketchUp. And again, if you are interested, you will find a course in SketchUp. Now you can see that these are SketchUp files, and I want to try to bring in something which is 2D and 3D, like a CAD drawing. Okay, now you can see this panel. Now when this panel appears, it means that yes, you can import this type of file, and you just need to make some decisions here. So if you say okay, there you go. You can see that something has appeared there, and you can see here some 2D objects which are represented by this object right here called standalone edges, and then I have a polygonal object which is a mesh object. So I have actually imported SketchUp directly without even have to export from SketchUp in a particular format. So just drag and drop like that. This is really handy, and sometimes this works with other 3D software, sometimes not. So you need to understand which software you can use to do this and which not. Now, in all other cases, don't worry, because you can use other formats. Now, let's make another example. In this example, I want to use something from the web. For example, in the website called Polyheaven, we can find this sofa, and we can download it in two different formats, which are Blender and GLTF. Now, I've already tested GLTF. It doesn't work with Cinema 4D as it is, but you can use Blender. So if you click here, you're gonna download this file in Blender. Also, I will suggest you a couple of other websites like SketchUp Warehouse. You can find a lot of 3D models and scenes and objects from there, and it's really a huge library. And also Sketchfab, which you can find a lot of really detailed models and textures, and you will find this on the web. And most of the models are open source, and you can just download them for free. Now, also this website here is open source, it's public domain, so you can download it and use it. Now, once you have downloaded that file and extracted it into a standard folder, you will find a texture folder and a Blender file. Now, double click on that Blender file. Of course, you need to have Blender installed in your computer, but you can see a video guide in our channel. Just search for Blender in the search bar and you will find video guides about Blender. Now, this one here, you can see it's a complete model, highly detailed with all textures and so on. We don't need to do anything here. We just need to transfer this into Cinema 4D. So use a format which will be readable by Cinema 4D. So we click here and select what we want to export, shift click to select both, and then go to File, Export, and you can select, well, a lot of these formats, but usually I select FBX or OBJ. But you can also use STL, which is the printing format, and also other formats that I will show you later. But I want to show you here the FBX. So I've exported, just export, save it with the name, and this one here is OBJ, this one here is FBX. So I'm going to click this one here and drag it and drop it directly into the scene. This is another option that you have. So you can use the file merge, or you can directly drag and drop. And FBX, I like FBX because it's complete. You can select if you want to import geometry, cameras, and other stuff here. Now I'm gonna leave everything as it is and say OK. And OK, yeah, it opened up another file here, but I can test now the single object. You can see I have two polygonal models right here. And then I can select these and just use the Ctrl-X or Ctrl-C standard commands that we already saw previously and bring it into this other scene. So I can also copy and paste stuff from two open scenes. So I'm gonna say Ctrl-V, and there's my couch there. And I can move it again. Be careful to select both, otherwise you're gonna miss something. And also I will show you how to create groups and other features later on. Now I want to bring this back on the back there, above the ground but below the text. Now I can rotate this and scale it if I find it too big. Now I want to show you another important part of Cinema 4D, which is the attributes panel. Now objects panel and attributes panel are the most important panels and are for managing objects and scenes and many other things that we're gonna see later on. Now I can move, rotate and scale using the viewports, but this will be always some kind of approximation, but you can do that because it's really fast. So you can see where the furniture here is gonna go to down and inside the pavement. You want to stop before you do that, but also you don't want them to fly above. So you just look at the scene there and decide where you want to place it. Now I also want to increase the size of this window, and this is also kind of a customization of the interface. If you can resize all the viewports. Now if you go in the attributes, you will find many different panels So, well, now I am in the move tool, and I don't really want to do that. I want to select the object and work with the object. So select the object from the scene or from the objects panel, and then here you can change the coordinates from here. So for example, I can rotate the object using a precise parameter, a precise measure, a precise value, and not by just looking into the viewport. Now you can either use these arrows here, you can use the arrows on your keyboard, you can also click and drag with the left mouse if you want to do this like quicker, and also you find the position and also in the height. So you're gonna find X and Z, which are on the base, and then you have the epsilon, which is the height of your object, and also the scale. So you can scale it 1D, 2D, or 3D. Now, if you want to do this uniformly, you need to set the exact value for all the dimensions here. So 90, 90, 90. This will be 90% than the original size, so it's gonna be smaller actually. And you can also find other tags here, like the font tag, but we're gonna see some of this later. Now let's get back to the basic. This is really important to understand how you can manage objects, how you can manage your scene, and also the viewport and the visibility. So let's get started here, and for example, I can give names. Now it's gonna tell me here multiple values because I have two selected. So if I select just one, I can decide to call this, for example, sofa base, sofa seat. So I can edit the name. I can also assign layers, which is also another management tool, but we're gonna talk about that later. It's a little bit more advanced. And if we go down again, we can see these two really important attributes: visible in editor, visible in render. Now, if you want to see this object visible only in the viewport, but not in the render, you will go here and say, okay, off in the render. So you can still see the object there in the viewport, but if I run a render, which is this icon right here at the top, you can just click there and it's gonna start a render. Now you can see that the model is not appearing. So let's click again to stop the render. So when you select this value, the object will not be visible in the render, and it will be also shown to you by these red dots. So if I can use the attributes here, I can also click directly on those dots, and this is going to be the default value. Gray values are the default values, so it means that it will be visible. And if I click again, that's going to be green. Green, it means that it will be visible. Red, not visible. Now the first dot represents the visibility in the viewport. The bottom dot instead is the visibility on the render. Now let's do the other way. So I'm going to make it invisible in the viewport, but visible in the render. So I cannot see it right here, but if I run a render, there's my couch right there. That's my sofa. So really easy once you understand the logic behind this. Now you can also completely deactivate a particular model inside the view. So if you go, for example, in the off, everything off like that, you can also do that sometimes if you find, for example, here in the text, you can find enable, disable, you will find this X, which will represent, again, the invisibility of that object inside the scene. Now, every object has its own attributes panels. For example, you can see here that I have only 3 panels, but if I go to the text, I have many different panels. And this is where we can edit a parametric object. We can do parametric modeling, which means I can model my object through the parameters. And this is another reason why the attributes panel is a really important panel. Now, in the attributes panel, you can also manage other things like the viewports. We saw that in the previous video. We can go to configure and we can work with the viewport. We can go here to mode, and for example, we can switch from view settings to camera settings, or to the object again, or to the project, which is everything we are doing right now in this particular project in Cinema 4D. Now you can also access this if you go here to the second drop-down menu. So we saw most of these features here, but you can also understand them by yourself. These are really basic. Now the second one, we saw how we can copy and paste and undo, redo, and this is project settings here. So you have project settings, you have scale project, and you have preferences if you want to customize the project or the software itself. Now, if you go to scale project, you can scale everything up, everything that's in the project. So you can say, okay, everything that's in the project, it's 1 millimeter. I want to make it 1 centimeter, which means it's gonna increase the value of 10 times. And if I want to switch from meters to millimeters, from millimeters to meters, it's gonna be 1000 times bigger. So you can scale everything up uniformly. Now, if we go here and select project settings, I will see here the project settings as well. And this, you can see we have the scale, but we can also customize here the FPS of my project, so frame per second, and I customize the project time. So maximum time, minimum time, I can set this to 5 seconds instead of the actual one that I have when I start. Well, I also changed here from frame to seconds, and I will show you where to do that. You can change from frame to seconds for the time units. So you can customize the project. You will find other stuff here. And you can customize the whole program, the whole software by going here in the preferences. And now let's see something interesting here, the most important part. And of course, you can come back here anytime if you want to customize what you need to customize. So first one is interface. So you can select the language. You can also change the font of the software. Now be careful, just remember that the standard here is Seago UI. And also we can see the input devices. You can, for example, insert a graphic tablet. You can change the navigation mode, the pan speed, and the dolly and the orbit speed if you think they're too slow, or you can make them faster. You can also change here the various effects. You can see the anti-aliasing here. If you increase the anti-aliasing, it's gonna look better in the viewport, but it's gonna be heavier for your graphic card. So usually I don't need that. So I just place none here to have this a little bit more fluid. And you can also set the transparency, the maximum lights that you want to see. So you can, if you set, you can see like that, you will not display the actual lighting. So it depends how complex you want the viewport, but the more effects you will add, the slower will be, or the heavier. And also shadows and other stuff. You can see this is the graphic card information. And also you have everything that you see in the viewport. You can define here, you can customize. I cannot go through all of these, but you can do it yourself. Just remember what you change, because probably you need to come back and reset the original situation, but I'm just going to show you the most important part. Also, files is pretty important. I usually turn the autosave on and define a custom directory to save my backup files. This is important. Also, you can set an interval. So each 5 minutes, I'm gonna autosave. And also I can save backup copies and so on. Plugins. Now, if you install some plugins, you would probably see it here. For example, V-Ray for Cinema 4D. Units. This is also important. You can choose which one you want to use, for example, centimeters or millimeters or meters or whatever. And also here, this is the animation unit, which I have selected here. Seconds, you can go back to frames. And we will talk about this in the animation videos. And also other stuff here like compact mode. And well, you can see here there are a lot of different settings that you can experiment with. And all of these are something that probably it's more advanced, so maybe we'll see this later, maybe not, but just know that these are there. And also here the extensions if you want to work with After Effects or ZBrush. And this is the import-export format that are accepted, so you can come here and see which one are accepted, like DWG, DXF from AutoCAD, Illustrator, Vector Graphics, STL, printing, SVG, Vector Graphics, and so on. And finally, we have scheme colors. So here you can edit basically each single color that you can find in the user interface. You can customize everything, anything. You can reset from here. And if you want to reset everything, just go in the preference folder and you will find here some preset preferences also here. Okay. Now you can customize your project, you can customize your objects, you can customize your software. Another thing you can customize is the interface. Yes, you can do that with the preferences, but also in terms of customizing toolbars, viewports. As we saw here, I just create a bigger 3D viewport. And so how we can do that? You just right-click on an empty space of the interface, and for example, we can create a new palette. Now this is empty here, and I can start to insert my favorites commands, for example. So if I right-click and say Customize Palettes, this other panel will open up, and from here I can search for a particular command. So for example, let's search for cube, and I want to add this one here by clicking and dragging and place it right there. Then I want to find, let's say, something concerning the zoom, so maybe the auto zoom or the set zoom and so on. You get the point. You search for what you need and you can bring it there in that new toolbar or new palette. Now if you scroll down, you can see all the different commands in Cinema 4D, and when you find the one that you like, you can click there and drag it and place it into your new toolbar. Okay, now I'm just gonna stop here to inserting things. Now when you finish, you can leave this floating around. You can click from that kind of stripe that you have on the left, and you can dock this into the interface as well. Now once it's docked, I can right click and undock it again, and if I want, I can just close it if I don't need it anymore. Now you can also customize this left toolbar, top toolbar, and right toolbar just by clicking and dragging more stuff. So for example here, I can click and drag and place that right there. Now when you're finished, you can close this panel, and I will show you how to get it back. You can also go to Window, and here you'll find the Command Manager, which is basically the shortcut keys editor also. And also here you have other possibility. You can open up a particular panel or window or close it, and you have the color settings also. So you have different windows basically, and customization here, you can customize menus, layouts, as we already see, we can save a particular customized interface, we can load it when we need it, and again we can create and customize and load palettes and save palettes and so on. Now I want to finish here with the shortcut keys. Now for example, let's search for cube again. Okay, now you can see that this doesn't have a shortcut. Now I can define my customized shortcut right here. I can go down below and set this. Let's say that it's gonna be Control Shift C. So you need to actually type or press those keys on your keyboard to define that shortcut. And hopefully this is not gonna be assigned to any other tool. So you can say assign, and there you go. Now I have that shortcut. Now if it is already assigned, it's gonna give you a notice. So this is backspace right now. Now let me delete this and redo it with Control C and say assign. Okay, now it's telling me be careful because Control C it's already assigned. What you want to do? Do you want to remove those assignments? No. So I don't want to use this one here for the cube. I want to use it for the Control C, so copy. And that's it. So this would be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did it, please subscribe to the channel. And also, if you want to support us a little more, please join the channel so that we can create more videos like this, more video guides, more video courses, and so on. You can also write your suggestions for other users in the comments. You can also write your questions, and you can participate with anything useful in the community and in the comments. So thanks for watching again, and see you in the next video.